And welcome to our second ever edition of Spotlight HBG, the new weekly show in which we're turning a spotlight on our incredibly talented and diverse management team here at the city. Thanks for joining us. I've got my iPad ready to take any questions that you may have over the course of this half-hour program. And as always, we're going to start with just a brief discussion of where we are regarding COVID and how it is affecting or showing up within the Harrisburg Advanced Wastewater Treatment System. The latest reports, and you can see the graphs on your screen, show that we are up above average. We have a higher concentration than about 66%, than 2/3 of the samples that are taken throughout the country. Our current case incident rate is about 35 new cases of COVID developing in the Harrisburg area on a daily basis. If you look at that on the graph, you'll see that we are well up above where we were a year ago. And that's the disturbing part of this graph. It's not unexpected, given the resistance that we're seeing to the vaccine, the unwarranted resistance, but it is significant. And if you look at where we had the spikes last year, they really began to spike in November, December, as people went more indoors due to the cold, and that's what we don't want to see happen here. So the message continues to be vigilant, get vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated, and continue to social distance and mask and do what you need to do because the virus hasn't gone away. It's there, it's strong, and it will continue to be there, and we don't want to see a return to spike in the fall. And if I can editorialize for just a moment, it's precisely because of this rise and the fact that we haven't made it through COVID that we need to move quickly with a sense of urgency to help get the American Rescue Plan funds out on the street to help residents of the city. This is why I believe in a guaranteed income program for Harrisburg. And I was distressed to see Council President's comments in the paper this morning saying that I was rushing to get those funds on the street. We need to be approaching this, and leadership needs to have a sense of urgency with regard to that. And I will continue to push for that as we move forward. But today's show is dedicated to Mr. Percy Bullock, who is our project coordinator in the engineering department of the city of Harrisburg. Percy, it is great to have you on the show. Really excited with all the experience that you bring to the city. And the way I would basically describe your job to the people watching is, if you're out there driving the streets of Harrisburg and you see construction going on, well, that construction is probably being coordinated on a day-in, day-out basis by Mr. Bullock, who has joined us. So welcome, Percy. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me on.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your background because part of the purpose of this show is also to show folks, you know, how people come to a career in public service or in government. And you've got a great biography, really interesting. Let's start with growing up in Johnstown. So you're from Pennsylvania, but you're from western portion of Pennsylvania. You grew up in Johnstown. And I think in most people's minds, we think of Johnstown in relation to the historic flood and the tragic events back in the 19th century. But of course, we live in the shadow of the river here in Harrisburg as well, and flooding is a part of our daily existence in life. But what did it mean to you, and what was it like growing up in Johnstown?
Growing up in Johnstown was pretty unique in reference to the diversity of the community itself. As you stated about the flood, 1977, we lived through the flood, so we understood what the different sodas they present to you, and the different atmosphere it brings to you. And it's just a really good atmosphere all around. Get to go to get a good education from Greater Johnstown School District and move on. And it's also in close proximity of the Pittsburgh area or any other area that you can go really easily and travel And that's what's good about Johnstown.
So Pittsburgh was the big city that sort of beckoned to you when you were growing up in the shadow of it in Johnstown. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
And after getting through high school, it looks like you went to Pittsburgh, the big city.
Yes.
And you had a job there in retail for a little while. Tell us about that experience.
Moving to Pittsburgh allowed me to become a manager of Foot Locker. And I spent about 4 years as a manager in Foot Locker, and at some point in time, the community mall where I was at, Allegheny Center Mall, was folding, and I had to make a decision in life, and so that's what brought me here to Harrisburg area.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And I guess Foot Locker was your first experience of dealing with customers. What was?
Yes, the direct line of customers is unique. You have a little bit of everybody, and you have to understand all types of personalities. And I actually enjoyed that. One thing again, Johnstown gave is a diverse community that you can dwell in and see and understand how people are. So when you become a manager, you already get a little bit of understanding of people's personalities. And when you're a manager of different people and also of customers that come in on a daily basis who have either an attitude of whatever was going on before they met you or just a nice character about themselves, it really starts to gel into you and understanding how to become a manager.
Yeah. When you talk about Johnstown and the diversity of Johnstown, what do you mean exactly? And how does it compare to what you experienced when you came to the Harrisburg area?
Oh, that's a good question, because what happens in Johnstown are different diversity. People moved in many moons ago in reference to the steel mill, and they came from everywhere. So you get the blacks, the whites, you get the Hispanics, you get the Chinese people or different ethnicities, I'm sorry. And when they come into the community, that's where diversity comes in. It's a big soup bowl of different people and different vegetables basically coming together and working together. So when you move on to Pittsburgh, you get a bigger taste of it. And so now I'm well and groomed and understanding the different people I come in contact with and making my way to Harrisburg. I was prepared to dealing with a multi-different cultures and whatnot. So yes, that's what I reference to that.
Yeah. So so you make your way into central Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And you get a job in Lower Paxton to begin with, in working on the sewer system.
Yes.
So that's an interesting career choice. What brought that about?
Well, like I said, when you leave Pittsburgh in the management and you have to find an occupation, and what drove me here is my uncle gave me an opportunity to come here. He said, "Hey, come on through. There's something here. You might want to just apply for it." So I did. I brought my family here. It's kind of like the hillbilly still. You get up, everybody loads up the truck, and that's what we did. Moved to Harrisburg. Sewer department came into play, and I thought ugly of it initially because you hear the word sewer, it gives a negative connotation, but it's not negative. It's pretty much the everyday life. We have to go through that process in our life. Either it's human beings or what have you. It's part of fertilization of the world.
Sure.
So dealing with the sewer, again, dealing with different type of people. And it wasn't as diverse in Lower Paxton Township on the broad standpoint, but it gave me a whole lot of education about dealing with government directly up front. So that's what I liked about the job, yes.
Sure, and it is amazing. I mean, we just gave the COVID stats in our wastewater system. It's amazing the epidemiological data which you can get that is helping us deal with this pandemic. People don't think about that, but it can measure opioid use. It can measure all sorts of give clear data to people's lives in terms of diet and health. So, all right, and then you talk about bringing your whole family. So tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, at the time I was married, and we raised 3 boys who are now grown men, which is good. Now I have 2 grandboys that go along with the package. So, and the boys never, I'm trying to recall a statement Bill Cosby said, introverted. The kids are always returning home for something or returning back to myself for some kind of help. And that's just positive family, that you bring about as you raise your children, keeping the family things going. And that helps when they come back. It makes me feel good as a parent that I made such an impact on them that they always return to dad for some type of support.
Good relationship. What do your sons do?
My oldest son, he's kind of a supervisor for a noodle company, close noodle company.
Okay.
My middle son, name is Percy Jr. He's in Margin Butter. And Tristan himself, he deals with hand-on things. He does hands-on. He's always Mr. Handyman, I call Tristan.
Right. I noticed a food theme there.
Yes, they claim they're a better cook than I am, and I'll let them have that title because if they're going to cook before myself, I can enjoy it. I like that.
Good for them.
Yes,
Good for them. All right, well, that's terrific. And The other thing, so you come back, you work your way up in Lower Paxton,
Yes.
and that's a long process. I mean, you're there for 25 years.
Yes, yes.
Remarkable. Kids grow up, but you go back to school, right?
Yes,
And
continue.
you get your degree at Hack. Tell us a little bit about how important that was.
I would advise anybody to, if you're wondering whether you should or should not go to Hack, it's an excellent opportunity to go in and get a good taste of education. And if you feel like you can step away, they'll have little courses where you can step away and get a certificate. If you feel like you want to continue on to the next level, get a bachelor's degree as well as your associate, my experience at Hack gave me that. It allowed me to continue on and get my bachelor's degree at Central Penn in Enola. I would always advise anybody, just get a taste of Hack if you're just not sure which way you want to go in your
That's
education.
great. No, and I know a lot of people, we're fortunate, very fortunate to have such a strong community college here, and giving opportunity to a lot of people. And then Central Penn's a great school, very professionally minded school.
Exactly.
What drove you there?
Well, the opportunity was given to me when I wanted to continue for my 4-year. And Central Penn does not give you the overcompensation of income leaving your pocket.
Right.
A huge financial bill.
Sure.
And they're close, and within proximity where you could travel over there and you could leave work. And it has a lot of adult evening classes.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about going to Central Penn.
Right.
And it made it very comfortable. Classes are small, in terms of big sizes, 50, 60, 80 students plus. No, my class size was down to 20 people or so or less. And that made it very comfortable to go to Central Penn and allow me to finish within the 2-year process, yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And, and you're working full time.
Yes.
And so tell us about how your responsibilities sort of changed over time and grew in Lower Paxton.
Well, the process of doing the basic labor work when you first go into a job like that, because there's a lot of field work, you move up and develop, and you also want to expand your horizons. At least I did when you go to a job. I never felt like I want to go to a job and say, I have a job and I'm satisfied. No, you want to grow, learn about the job, learn about the community, and then when you become more community-oriented and more educated about what's going on in the business atmosphere, you become the grow in certain things. So before I left Lower Paxton Township, I helped develop what they call PA one call system. Yeah. We already had it in place, but it made it easier to transition to what you call an iPad in reference to going and doing all kind of notes and reading your notes from the back in the cabinet, the old days, ripping papers out and seeing where things are located at. So it's a location deal. And I was pretty happy to help the community learn that we can do that easier. We can go out on the road,
right,
bring an iPad, focus on what the job needs to get done, and do it from the iPad standpoint, basically bring everybody up to technology.
Sure, yeah. We won't get into how much technology changed in 25 years.
Yes.
But, this is basically my lifetime as well. You started working there when I graduated from college. And, so after 25 years of a job, some people are ready to retire.
Yes.
But not you. You're seeking out greater and in some ways more challenging projects for yourself. So next thing, you move into Harrisburg and you start working for CAT.
Yes.
So tell us about that experience, because being a liaison for CAT is not an easy job, I wouldn't imagine.
No, again, and that's one thing about what CAT presents in reference to the riders, because of huge ridership and, which covers a lot of people, is one of my past experience, and I enjoyed that. And, I embraced it, communicate with the people and the drivers. They have a different, very vast, diverse of the drivers they have. So when becoming a supervisor with CAT and also liaison in reference to communicate with the people, the riders, as well as the drivers, kind of make things a little more smoother as people transition from just the regular daily deal and getting on the bus and understanding how the buses move about. That transition came to me basically just by working out one day, and their general manager at that particular point in time, he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm ready to retire." He says, "I have an opportunity for you. Why don't you come check it out and see what you like?" And that's how I transitioned into CAT.
Yeah, and from a transportation standpoint, a lot of the city's projects now require a close working relationship with CAT, especially as we're redoing, optimizing bus stops and locations and redoing access ramps and everything else. So that experience should really come in handy.
Yes, it has. With one of the latest issues we had on her in 15, it has given us an opportunity to see how to make that area better in reference to bus stop itself, and even our bus stops from some of the other projects we have. How do they correlate within those? Our engineer, Wayne Martin, him and I have sat down on many occasions and talked about, does a bus stop fit this area? Would it be something we would like here? Can we use different bus shelters? We are overlaying those type of conversations as we speak, and the experience from CAT has given me that opportunity to share with him.
Yeah, great. And we should mention Wayne here. Obviously, he's the city engineer.
Yes.
He's your immediate supervisor. You
Correct.
work for him in that department. But Wayne can't be out there day in and day out managing the projects. He's got plenty on his plate, and somebody has to work with the contractors and supervise and make sure things are going well. So hence this position of project management at the city. And I should say, this is an example of a position that we didn't have when I took office. We weren't doing many projects at all. Everything had ground to a halt in Harrisburg amidst the financial crisis that we were experiencing 8 years ago. Now that we have money in reserves, we're doing millions of dollars of projects in the city on a yearly basis with a lot more to come. And obviously with that comes the need to build up your institutional staff, people with experiences who can manage it. So what attracted you to Harrisburg? I remember your interview well, and we were fortunate to have you apply for the job. But what was it? Again, you've 25 years. You're not ready to retire, but many people would. So why go to an additional challenge even post the challenge from CAT?
Well, in between CAT and Harrisburg, I had a lot of experience down at York City.
Oh, yes,
okay,
true.
The sewer department in York City, which involved a lot of construction jobs within itself. And so now I'm coming with a background understanding not only contractors, but construction itself, because you got to understand the legality of it. It's not just something you go start digging. There's a lot of things that go into network. And some things, like what we move into with becoming a project manager, take years to get up and running. And that's where the opportunity, what I've seen, and was presented before me with coming to Harrisburg, becoming a project manager, and returning, in a sense, back home from York, back to the Harrisburg area.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned York, because your experience working for another city,
Correct.
A third-class city, is also really important. Was that the position where you first began to really understand the mechanisms of government and how government related to project management?
From a management standpoint,
Yeah.
Yes, because before those many years, I understood it from a labor standpoint and being in the union. Now, from a management standpoint, I get the opportunity to see what the broad focus is on. What we're trying to do as management for the community of our people at large. So yes, that's what brought it forth. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, all this leads up to your time in Harrisburg, and you accept this position. We're thrilled to do it, and suddenly you're presented with this portfolio of projects that are either ready to be managed or about to be managed. So can you take some time and just sort of walk people through what's going on in the city of Harrisburg?
The city of Harrisburg is broadening its horizons in reference to construction, and people should embrace it.
Yeah.
In the next 10 years, we're going to be growing a lot. And one of our biggest projects right now is the 7th Street multi-module project we're doing. It enhances the availability to get from Hurst Street to Raleigh Street and beyond to 83 and 81, or whichever the way you travel. And what it does is it makes that crossroads safer, because some bump outs, and we're going to have some upraised sidewalks for FIA. We're going to also have some signs, some easy ADA ramps for people to get on and off, and it makes it so much easier for people to make this transition. And at the end of that, at Raleigh Street has our wonderful roundabout. A lot of different states like Maryland have these roundabouts. We're slowly integrating them into Pennsylvania, and I believe this is probably one of the biggest ones in Pennsylvania that we're putting down right now out there on 7th and Raleigh.
Right.
People are going to have a little, problem with something new. But new or not, it's going to be something easy. It's going to transition into the upper portion of 6th Street. It's going to go into the courthouse, the federal courthouse. It's going to be really nice. People are going to like that. Another big project we're taking place.
Hang on for 1 second, because I do want to get to that. But listen, I actually think people are going to really like that roundabout, because it's 7th Street historically had been really over improved. It was this beautiful road, but it didn't really connect. And with the courthouse and the new archives and a lot of other development projects, we're beginning to get that critical mass of activity and jobs and people that really justifies these improvements along the corridor. And the roundabout's a very sensible way to approach that intersection. It actually should be faster. It should allow people to, turn around and do what they need to do. But it is different. It is new. And you mentioned, it's new, and people may experience it. Walk us through, let's stick with 7th Street for a minute, and can you walk us through like a day in the life of Percy Bullock when it comes to managing the 7th Street multimodal project?
That itself is very challenging because you're dealing with a lot of different contractors. There's a lot of different feet on the pavement over there, if you want to call it that, because we have different contractors putting curbs in or doing some pavement, putting this right now signs as well as the street paint, okay, and concrete. It involves a lot of people, and then the engineers get involved with it, heavy-duty inspectors get involved with it as well. So I have to stay kind of in the way of all that, because I have to understand what each and every entity is doing at what particular time. And if they have trouble, and if I can't answer the question, of course, I revert it back to our engineer, Wayne Martin, who always has a good answer for us. If he doesn't, he knows how to find it.
Sure.
And that's what's good, So, yeah, that's the part of the job that's nice and unique. You're learning as well. It's kind of like on-the-job training, but it's also a part of the job where you're in it, hands-on at every day.
So you have the contractors,
Yes.
you have the engineers and the inspectors,
Yes.
you have you have the city engineer and your city supervisors, you have the public, you have your stakeholders like
Yes.
FIA and others that are, I'm sure opinionated and rightly so about how things should be going. So that's a lot of things to juggle. And then on top of it, it's your responsibility as the project coordinator to make sure we stay on budget, right?
Yes, we stay on budget is a big deal, yes.
So how do you do that? I mean, what stops these projects from, just
floating off course, you're suggesting? Well, what you do is you make sure you have, first of all, a bidder that's going to be willing to stay in budget. And you got to find ways to, if a problem arises, to make sure you don't go over the price or whatever arises, because sometimes it can go over. Don't get me wrong, sometimes choosing less is not always best, and we have to go over. But keeping the project in the meeting proximity of $4.2 million just in that area is where we're at right now, and I think we're going to end up about the same amount. Yes, we won't go over too much.
I mean, we shouldn't underemphasize just how important that is. Because, and we get you give me regular reports. We track this from day one of the project, and if and it looks like anything's going off course, we're able to course correct sooner rather than at the end after the fact and say, we've just gone over budget. But keeping the projects on budget and on time, a really important part of what you do, and something that's really important as custodians of taxpayer dollars. Now, you do this while, before we get to other projects, let's talk about your new home, your new offices.
Yes.
Because we made some fanfare, I think, last year when we purchased the old M&T Bank building along that same corridor that we're describing. And we turned it into the new home of our engineering team. And your office is there. So talk a little bit about the building. Tell people how to find you if they want to come knock on your office door.
Yes, we welcome the public. It's the old M&T building. It still has the M&T sign up because of the
ATM.
The
Still an ATM.
Yes, the ATM is still referenced there. It's a building where not only we have my office, also the engineering office, also the traffic control office. We also hold our meetings there. So back to what we're saying, holding budget in. That's how we hold the budget in as well. We have meetings, every biweekly meeting, to talk about things to hold the budget into check. But the office itself is welcome to the public. Come through, sit and ask questions. We have some people come in almost every day to ask numerous of questions.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
numerous of questions. And we pretty much meet the challenge about 98% of our questions. And whether they need to be diverted somewhere or not, we hold them in-house and we handle the problem.
It's really the first new building for the city since we expanded into our public works facility on Paxton Street about 8 years ago.
Okay.
We had to do that one because the city had sold the incinerator at the time, and we didn't have a home for our public works team. And engineering and traffic, and we're all based in that building for a while, but it was never the long-term plan. We were very fortunate that M&T came to us with the offer of a building at a greatly discounted price. I mean, far below market value. They donated hundreds of thousands of dollars of value to the city. And it is a great central location from which to manage the projects. And as you mentioned, it also has office space for the very people that you're working with that we talked about, the project managers or the engineers or whatever. And so giving you an office where everybody can get together and work, as well as where the public can interact, it's new for Harrisburg, but it's really positive. And I would encourage the public to come check out the building.
Yes.
We named the building after Aaron Johnson. There's a beautiful Aaron Johnson sign on the building now. There's parking, which is free if you want to come visit. So just do it. I guess the best, easiest way to get there is you sort of turn off Bow Street. Right?
On Bow Street, correct. That's the correct entrance from Bow Street.
All right, so that's the new digs, which is exciting, and then I think we're on track with the 7th Street project. I believe the last I heard was that the roundabout should hopefully be ready to open by Thanksgiving. Is that
That's our request,
okay.
to have it open by Thanksgiving. We'll have
Yeah.
80% of the project done by Thanksgiving. That's paved. That's all concrete down. We'll
Yeah.
have a little bit of what we call dressing
Yeah.
after that. That's putting more signs up. That's putting some in the medium, which we're going to have basically an island. So that's fitting the island with the proper trees, the grass, the shrubbery, things of that nature, just those small things like that. But the travel itself should be done and completed by November 30th.
And that's great. And how does that coincide with the courthouse and the courthouse's future opening?
Well, that should coincide before.
Sure,
Yes,
right.
because I think we're above. And
Yep.
in terms of above, we're before the time zone.
Right.
And our time should end a whole lot sooner than that. But it should coincide also with traveling to and fro the courthouse. It should make that travel in and around the roundabout a whole lot easier for anybody in that traveling to the courthouse.
That's right. And the courthouse, I think, scheduled to open the following year after the roundabout completion. It would be
Yes.
nice to get that intersection back up and open to the public
Yes.
from a transportation standpoint. So that's great. Now, real quick, because we don't have a lot more time, but I do want to touch on the other massive project which is going on in Harrisburg, which is the 2nd Street two-way project. And can you give us a little update there?
2nd Street project is going pretty well. We're focusing on right now is 80 ramps on pretty much every corner as we make our way down to the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
Okay, and as we're doing that, we're trying to make sure every side is 88 ramp certified, and that takes a while by one of our contractors, JVI.
I think it's important to just hammer this home a little bit, because one of the things that we have to do whenever we do a road improvement project is we also have to, and rightly so, look at ADA and pedestrian accessibility for these projects.
Exactly.
It's not just about cars; it's about people and how they share the streets and the sidewalks and the roads, and it's about bicyclists. It's about buses, as we've already discussed with Kat, and that's fundamental. So it's not as easy as just simply hiring a paving company to come and repave, right?
Right, exactly.
And so when people look at 2nd Street now, they see corner after corner after corner. And that is about having a safer, more walkable Harrisburg, isn't it?
Exactly. Because what's going to happen, 2nd Street is not only going to have a small island in the middle of it, it's also going to be two-way, as you stated earlier. And this slows traffic down, but it makes it easier to transition from Front Street over to 2nd Street and not have to wonder, can I not go south?
Yeah.
You can go south now on 2nd Street, make your accessibility to the city a whole lot easier, and it slows things down for safety on both sides of the community for the residents who live along 2nd Street.
And it's tied to 7th Street as well, because honestly, improving 7th Street and access there through the roundabout is going to be one of the ways that some of the traffic coming over that Harley Taylor Bridge goes north and gets and exits the city, rather than using the city as a cut through or a pass through just simply to get to the highway, which results in excessive speeds and makes the neighborhood unsafe for the people who live there. Anything else you want to highlight about the 2nd Street project?
The 2nd Street project, along with the many other projects throughout the community that are coming up with, like I said, within the next 10 years, is part of Vision Zero.
Yeah.
And what that means basically is to reduce or hopefully stop a lot of the fatality and accidents within the community. And that's what these projects basically overcome right there. Our effort is to try to reduce major accidents within the city. So that's one addition I wanted to add to that, because that's important for us.
I see your Vision Zero shirt and the brand there. It's something I believe in deeply, right? It is what ties these projects together.
Right.
And so 7th Street, followed by 2nd Street, and then the next project that's coming up really pretty quickly, and this is involved with PennDOT, is going to be the State Street Safety Project. Can you touch on that very briefly?
The State Street project is coming up soon, and I think it's going through its bid process right now. It's out and being advertised. That similar project is going to encompass some of the same things on 7th Street, a lot of the ADA ramps coming up, and the biggest portion, again, is to reduce accidents out there. We've had some major accidents on there in terms of State Street, but we're going to get that taken care of within the next 2 years.
Yeah, and that'll be next. That'll be next. We'll have more on that in the news here as we sort of groundbreak for that project. And a lot to manage, a lot to do. Hundreds of millions of dollars of projects in the pipeline. A city which is now financially able to pay for these and to plan for them. And who knows what the new infrastructure bill is going to have in store for the city as well. I know we're in conversations with our federal delegation. There's a lot of possibility there. There's meetings going on today, but it could mean potentially millions of dollars in newly funded projects. Some long-standing ones, like the bridge over Division Street, connecting Hack with the city, or the Paxton Creek Dechannelization Project may finally begin to see some federal resources, which is really what's needed to push those projects over the top. So more on that to come. Well, Percy, it has been a delight. Let's end on a positive note. I know you're a sports fan, maybe a suffering Pittsburgh Pirates fan.
Yes, I'm a Pirates fan.
You're also, you've also been a coach of youth sports for a long time.
Yes,
Can you talk about what that's meant for you and, to you, and how you draw on that experience in your job?
That managing children or young adults is really good when you come to dealing with people, because you get to see where people basically start their attitudes from. And that's, of course, as an adolescent and moving along. When you start to get different people to mold and go at a certain point over time and see it evolve to a winning team and success, that is what's promised to me. I really enjoy that. And what helps me so much, we get really dialed into it. A lot of years I didn't coach my own children, so it came directly from the heart. And that's how I looked at it. And people I've touched that come back and speak to me today, they say, hey, Coach, the interesting thing about it is I tend to forget who that person is because it's been such a long time and so many people. But the fact that they notice me and still say, hey, Coach, that feels, I feel blessed inside that I touched them in that small manner. Coaching is wonderful. If you coach from the heart, not to win, but from the heart, the winning comes along with it.
Well, you are a busy man, Mr. Percy Bullock. This is impressive, and I hope everybody watching at home got to learn some interesting things. And if you have additional questions that you want to send to the city as you watch this on replay, please do. We're going to continue to do this live on Facebook every Friday at noon as we move forward. We're going to introduce you to new and interesting people that work for the city of Harrisburg. We certainly had a great conversation today. Thank you, Percy. Thanks for being here. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week on Spotlight HBG.